has really become quite a catch-all phrase that coaches and associations, as well as parents, use to describe a wide variety of behaviors. When we're thinking about bullying, it's really important to understand what it is that we're talking about. What is that behavior that we're hoping to address? The problem with using the term bullying to describe this wide variety of behaviors is that it's quite a negative catch-all phrase, and it's a label that can really stigmatize a young person and follow them as they go up throughout their career as an athlete. What I like to do when I'm talking about bullying is take a trauma-informed approach, which is an approach that really looks at an athlete as a complete person. So a trauma-informed approach considers all of the things that might be going on for that person within their experience on their team in sport, but also at home, and perhaps if they have some stuff going on for them at school, as well as things that might have happened to them previously in their life. And so when you take a trauma-informed approach, you're looking at a person much more holistically, rather than just as that player on the team who has problematic behaviors. Really normalizing conflict on a team can go a long way, because conflict is a natural part of any team's growth and development. And when it comes up, people get really uncomfortable, and that's when oftentimes terms like bullying get thrown around, because people are left with looking for a solution, and sometimes that solution is just blaming someone for something that they've done, rather than looking at the complexities of the bigger problem. If you are in the position as a coach or as a parent to have a conversation about bullying type behaviors, what can go a long way is to describe what the behaviors are rather than using labels. So having as much information as possible about what the behaviors were. So rather than using terms like they were disrespectful, you could say something like they invited all of the team members to go for coffee after practice, but excluded this team member. And they did it by text, and get some of those details when you're talking to your child or when you're talking to your athlete, depending if you're a parent or a coach. But it's hard for people to address issues if they don't know the specifics. Athletes really often look up to their coaches and watch their behavior and take their cues from their coach's behavior. So if a coach is an open communicator, is transparent with what their expectations are, is transparent about what the boundaries are for team behavior, then athletes are following that. And kids who do have problematic behavior and who come from backgrounds where there has been trauma respond really well to that, to boundaries and to guidelines that help them know how to behave when they're in group situations. It's really helpful for coaches to establish a strong, respectful team culture right from the beginning of the season, and to take a zero tolerance policy on disrespectful behavior. Sometimes I've seen coaches kind of have that attitude that things will pass. If they just look the other way, hopefully things will get better, or boys will be boys, things like that. Girls will be girls. There's drama, all those sorts of stereotypes. But when coaches do that, they are being complicit in the behavior, because they're not setting that team culture right from the beginning. So by taking a zero tolerance policy when the team first comes together, the team then can develop in an effective way where conflict is managed and communication is respectful. There's been a bit of a push over the last several years for parents to take a little bit more of a back seat in sport, because often we've seen parents become over-involved and display some really problematic behaviors themselves. But what is really important is for parents to remain involved and to remain engaged in their child's life in sport in a positive way. So that means having regular communication with the coach, having a good understanding of what's going on the team, so that they can then support their athlete to navigate some of the interpersonal dynamics that might be happening on the team. Parents can be a great support to coaches as well as to associations in terms of their volunteerism and in terms of supporting their athlete to continue to stay in the sport. Just like the coach and just like the athletes, parents are also a part of the team. They're the ones who athletes go home to at the end of practice, at the end of games, and they're the ones who really have quite a lot of influence over young athletes. And so it's really important for parents to model behavior that's respectful, communication that's respectful, that young athletes can then use when they're interacting with their own teammates. It's also really important for parents to create an atmosphere of openness so that their athlete can go to them if they are facing problems and if they are facing bullying type behaviors from their teammates. And then once parents hear that from their child, they can go and talk to the coach with their athlete and then look at what can be done to address some of the problems.